It started with a shovel. Cold metal breaking the frozen ground of a small cemetery in rural Rhode Island. The year was 1892. A grieving father stood in silence, watching as men unearthed his daughter's coffin. Her name was Mercy Brown. She had been dead for nearly 2 months. But they didn't come to mourn her. They came to see if she had become a vampire. The townspeople whispered about her heart, that it was still full of blood, that her cheeks hadn't sunken, that her body was still warm. They believed she had risen from her grave, night after night, to feed on the life of her brother. They believed she was the reason Edwin was dying. So they opened her coffin, and what they saw only deepened their fear. 2 years earlier, the Brown family was just like any other in the town of Exeter. Hardworking, close-knit, and weathered by the times. But then tragedy struck. Mary Eliza, the mother, was the first to fall ill. She coughed for weeks, bloodied handkerchiefs and sleepless nights, before wasting away. The doctors called it consumption, what we now know as tuberculosis. Not long after, Mercy's sister Mary Olive died the same way. Then it was Edwin, Mercy's beloved older brother. He had moved away, tried to escape the sickness, but when he returned, he looked like a ghost of himself. Pale, hollow-eyed, drenched in sweat. He was dying slowly. And then it came for Mercy. She was just 19. She was vibrant, curious, and had the kind of laughter that stuck in your memory. She loved reading. She loved springtime. But winter took her. January 17th, 1892. Her body was placed in a simple crypt until the ground thawed enough for burial. But by March, Edwin's condition had worsened. Locals began whispering that Mercy's spirit was visiting him at night, draining his energy. They claimed her ghost sat on his chest, stealing his breath. This wasn't new superstition. For over a century, New England had whispered about vampires. Not the fanged strangers of European legend, but familiar faces. Dead loved ones who returned from the grave to feed on the living. It was fear dressed as folklore. And the only cure was exhumation. March 17th. A small group gathered in the cemetery. A doctor, the local priest, the town sheriff, and George Brown, Mercy's father. He didn't want this. He'd lost his wife, 2 daughters, and now his son. But the pressure from neighbors and whispers in the church pews left him no choice. The crypt was opened. They expected bones, a collapsed face, silence. Instead, Mercy looked almost untouched. Her nails had lengthened, her face still full. And when they cut open her chest, her heart was full of liquid blood. It was enough. They removed her heart and liver, burned them on a nearby stone, and mixed the ashes with water. This mixture, part medicine, part ritual, was given to Edwin to drink. It was meant to cure him. 2 months later, he was dead. What happened to Mercy Brown wasn't an isolated act of desperation. It was part of a pattern. In the 18th and 19th centuries, more than 80 recorded exhumations happened across New England for suspected vampires. Families dug up sons, daughters, even wives, looking for signs of undeath. Bodies were turned over, burned, rearranged. It wasn't malice. It was fear. Fear of a disease they didn't understand. Of death that came too quickly, too often. Mercy Brown became the last known case in American history of a vampire exhumation. Her story echoed so far, it may have reached across the Atlantic. Scholars believe Bram Stoker, the author of Dracula, read a newspaper clipping about her while writing his novel. His character Lucy Westenra dies from a mysterious illness, rises from the grave, and is destroyed to save others. Just like Mercy. Today, Mercy's grave still stands in Chestnut Hill Cemetery. It's simple. A small stone, often covered in coins, flowers, or notes from curious visitors. Some say her story is one of superstition, others of science versus fear. Subscribe to Across Time and Crime for more real crime stories from the past.